Yes, Amit, you can start.
Okay. Good afternoon, all of you, all of you who are present here on this warm afternoon. And first of all, thank you very much for being present here for this wonderful session. I am Amit Karandikar, and I extend a warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Granville Education. Um, I work at Granville Education in the capacity of team leader for Cambridge Assessment English. And it is a real pleasure to welcome all of you to this very special occasion. Now, just to inform all of you, Granville Education also is a part of Upper Group of Education. So we are in a way connected with each other, concerned with each other. Why have we all gathered here today? So, as you can see the topic on the screen, an introduction to the teaching knowledge test. The acronym of the same is TKT, and there are various models in TKT. There is model 1, 2, 3, and there is CLIL. And Ruchi ma'am will be talking about it. So let me introduce all of you. Miss Ruchi. This is a very special person with all of you. Welcome, Ruchi ma'am. She has an experience of over 25 years, and she has been working as a master trainer as a consultant for teaching knowledge test. So, in her role as a master trainer, she designs and leads powerful training programs that help teachers improve their classroom teaching, handle challenges with confidence, and guide their students to learn better. So I have come across this feedback by people that Ruchi ma'am sessions are known to be very practical and they are very easy to follow. So I am quite sure that Ruchi ma'am will ensure that the same goes on here. And they're all full of useful insights for all the teachers. So without any further delay, I would not like to take too much of your time. Please join me in welcoming our speaker for today, Miss Ruchi. And from here on, over to you, Ruchi ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the warm welcome. Let's just take a quick confirmation that I'm very, very audible. I'm trying to be as loud as possible. I know that today, good afternoon, teachers. Today we are experimenting in a very exciting manner with, with a new format of digital technology. And I'm all for using technology for the maximum outreach in the teaching and learning process. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ruchi Tomar. We are going to spend roughly an hour plus together today, in which I'm going to speak to you about the teaching knowledge test, right? The TKT, and I'm going to refer to it as TKT also. At the end of the session, because of this unusual format, at some point of time, we will ask you to post your queries and questions into the chat box of the YouTube live that is happening right now, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So, why? Let's talk a little bit about Cambridge. I take a lot of satisfaction and pride both for working for this very esteemed and prestigious organization because of not necessarily just the name, but because of the capacity and the outreach that Cambridge has. It reaches teachers, and I think that's very, very important and very critical part of the teaching learning process because through teachers, through 4 million teachers, you can have a very exponential reach to students. We have assessments. We are most well known, of course, for some of our multi-level tests. We also have some very interesting websites like the English Corpus. If I have time today, I will speak. And of course, and we have a huge community of 6 million learners that we have. Now, the TKT, everybody, so the first question that should come to your mind, if I were in your places, is why should I take another test? Why should I now go in for another qualification? I've done whatever, I've done my B.Ed, I've done my Montessori training, or I've done my qualifications, I've done my master's. So many of you would have finished your master's in your respective programs. So why? So what's in it for me? WIIFM, right? So today's focus is going to be what's in it for you as a teacher, right? So corporate trainers have this, when we do corporate trainings, corporate trainers have this, they will give you a teacup and they will give you the picture of a teacup and they will say, oh, empty your teacup. because to learn something, you have to unlearn something. I completely agree with that point of view, that to learn something, you have to unlearn something. But I also say that you have to expand your horizons, you have to expand your thinking. So my take is that I'm going to ask you to bring more and more teacups, right? One is full, we'll bring another one, we'll bring another one. So that is my request to all of you to do it today. So here's the overview of today's session. We are going to talk about what is TKT, who is it for, very importantly, why, and just a small peep into how you can get started. In the short time that we have, we are going to sort of cover it. Of course, what is TKT? It is a Cambridge English qualification. It is not just for English teachers, as we will learn during this session, because everybody has this impression that the Cambridge qualifications for teachers are very exclusive for teachers of English. But that is not always the case. We have a module of TKT which is applicable for teachers who teach using English as a medium. So your medium of instruction is English, and how can you focus on improving your skills is something that we will talk about today. Okay, right. So what to teach has always meant is very evident in these pictures, right? The teacher is always at the head of the class. It's a very typical situation in our country and also in many places across the world, where the teacher is, and rightly so in certain cases, I'm not saying that this is wrong, but we are moving away from a very teacher-centric learning model in many instances, right? Technology, for example, impacts a lot of how we interact with our students. So to teach has always meant to explain. And of course, there is nothing that oratory cannot make possible, or talking cannot make possible. But the question that we want to do as teachers is, do we want to become just orators in our classrooms? Do we want our classrooms to look like this? Or do we want a highly engaged, interactive classroom? Now, both are good classrooms to have in a specific situation. If your classroom is always like the image on the top left, or always or majority of the time like the image on the bottom right, then we are in a little bit, we have to think a little bit, introspect a little bit. But your classroom should have your students engaged. And of course, this is where the TKT and exams like the TKT and qualifications and professional upgrades like the TKT will really, really help you get, you press a sort of a refresh button. So we say, let's ask more of our learners, what were all these teachers doing? All these teachers are, very simply put, explaining, and they are the source of knowledge in a classroom. With the advent of digitization, creating various access routes to a lot of things, especially education, information is no longer exclusive to anybody. Whatever I am telling you today about TKT, you can always go, and I will in fact direct you to the Cambridge English website at the end of the session, and you can find a lot of the information that I'm going to talk about there. So I'm not really going to spend too much time on giving you information of what's already out there for you to check. So this is what we want to put a little bit focus, is that what is the role of a teacher in a modern, digitally aware classroom? And our students are very, very digitally aware. We have to keep that in mind. So what are all these teachers doing? Very simply put, they are explaining. It's a very typical situation. It happens in a lot of classrooms across the world. The teacher walks in, picks up the topic for the day, explains, does some concept checking questions, etc. Which is fine if the topic is really hard or really esoteric or really tough for students to understand. It's a great thing to do. But then when we start thinking of the learner, a young agile learner, we want to look at what could be the opposite of explaining. And the opposite of explaining is eliciting. We want to so a professional qualification such as the TKT is going to focus on going beyond the obvious especially in an English classroom and in a non-English classroom as well. So what knowledge do teachers need, right? All of you are seeing the screen. What do teachers need? They need to understand different methodologies for teaching. Okay. So in a very specific context, so I would assume that there are a lot of teachers in this session and everybody's got their own favorite way of, let's say, teaching something like vocabulary or teaching a theoretical concept. Multiple ways can result in the same learning outcome, right? The same way you will have different methodologies for teaching, able to use the language of teaching, which is very, very important. Selecting from a range of responses, which I think in this day and age becomes very, very critical, right? For speaking, for example, we have great pronunciation dictionaries that we can use. So that's a great resource to use in an English classroom where students are struggling with some pronunciation or fluency or register or whatever. Effective lesson preparation, understanding classroom management methods for different use, and the classroom language. So teacher as facilitator, teacher as manager, teacher as assessor, teacher as evaluator, teacher as language resource, teacher as mentor, teacher as so many things, teacher as planner, teacher as even something like taking feedback from students. So then you become the receiver of whatever information you want from your learners. So in all of this discussion, and we all know that the classroom has changed and teaching methodologies have changed, sometimes for the better. And in that, we ask the question, why the teaching knowledge test? For a couple of reasons. It's mapped onto the Cambridge English Teaching Framework. And I will show you this in very brief, this framework today. And obviously this teaching framework is specifically for teachers of English. It's a certification from the University of Cambridge, which is obviously very, very highly, let's say it is very, it's very appreciated. It has a very high reputation. And it is something which a lot of people put proudly onto their resumes and onto their LinkedIn profiles. You get a certification. It helps you make your career plans. It helps teachers do that. It's regularly updated as an important part of the teacher development range. It's very importantly accessible and flexible. One of the biggest challenges that teachers will come back and say, oh, all fine, all good, Ruchi, very nice, we are very nice, but how do we take time off? Right? We have a very busy schedule, we have families, we have children, we have our school responsibilities, which go, so there's a lot happening on the school front or on the work front, but I really can't take time off, quote unquote, to prepare. So I think this is the biggest, for me, this is one of the biggest benefits and one of the places where the TKT really has a special place, is that you can prepare by yourself, right? You don't have to take 1 month off. Of course, you have to give it time to prepare. I'm not saying you don't have to prepare, but you don't have to take time off from your regular work and your regular schedule. So even if you add, let's say, a certain amount of time every week, twice a week, teachers are able to do it. Most of the teachers who take up the TKT are able to do so without any break in their workplace. So that's, I think, a very good thing. And it focuses on core concepts related to language teaching and learning. So again, all the non-English teachers are going to ask, how does it matter to me? And I will definitely come and reach to that. So of course, deliver to international standards, enhance career opportunities. It's an additional certification. And the third bullet point is really important here. Each module is independent. I will explain the modules in a minute. It helps you to progress to the next stage in your own pace. And you can map it onto anything that is happening. So who is it for? So basically teachers across the spectrum, teachers with some experience, teachers with a lot of experience, all of it, teachers who want to broaden their teaching into specialized areas, and you want to bring on a new qualification onto your listing. So now we'll get into and we'll start talking, now that we've spoken a little bit about what is the TKT, why do such professional qualifications help you. We'll start talking a little bit about the specific parts of TKT. And if you have any questions, I would just request you to note them down, and I'll be happy to answer them before we close down the session. So as you can see, we are able to see 3 modules plus CLIL and VIAL. We will not talk so much about VIAL today. We will talk about, but I put it there so that you should know what is available. Module 1 and Module 2 and Module 3. These 3 modules are very specifically meant for teachers of English, right? So there is there is a special treat that you have 3 modules from Cambridge for. So the obvious question that somebody asks, do I have to take all 3 modules? It is not mandatory. Is it a good idea to take all 3 modules? Absolutely. It is part of a learning journey for you as a teacher. What order should I take the modules in? Generally, a lot of people will say, and even somewhere the website says you can take them in any order, but my personal recommendation to you is you start module 1, module 2, module 3. Module 1 and 2 still can be interchanged. You can start with module 2, go 1, and then go to 3. But you can sort of do it in order. For the simple reason is because if you look at the topics that are up there on the screen, module 1 is about language and background to language learning and teaching. Module 2 is about lesson planning and use of resources for language teaching. So once you cover the background to language learning and teaching and what the language teaching is all about, what are the functions of language, for example, then it's easier for you to correlate to module 3. And module 3 is about managing the teaching and learning process. So do you have to take them all together? Absolutely no. It's a big no from me. I would never recommend any teacher to take all 3 modules at the same time, for the simple reason that you will not get the benefit and you will not get the professional enhancement that we are looking for when we take up such examinations. Okay. Then we come to the 4th box and we will talk about content and language integrated learning. This is where our non-English teachers get an opportunity to get to aim for a Cambridge qualification. What I have been informed by Dr. Mithun, I would like to add that here, is that the Apollo Group is going to help, it's going to aid, it recognizes the importance of such professional opportunities for its teachers. And there is an opportunity for you to take the benefit of having 50% of your fees subsidized by the Apollo Group. I personally say, I generally stay out of such things, but I have to say here that I think it's a huge step. It's a very big and it's a very generous step by the management of the institute. And it's there, and I would advise all of you, I would recommend that you give it serious thought about how you would want to take this up. It's like something that really helps. I was doing a session about 2 months back in one school in Hyderabad, and we had it was a face-to-face session, so there was a good opportunity to interact with teachers. And one of the apprehensions that the teachers had is that, it's okay, I want to do this session, but what if tomorrow I need some time to prepare, or I need something to do it so if the school is in partnership, if the education institution is actively helping you do it, you will get a lot of both, not just the financial support, but a lot of intrinsic support that is required, right? I would also advise you to take it up as a group. We know for us students, group study is not the best thing, but as teachers, we are more responsible. Then you can do a lot of preparation together. So it looks very simple, and if I can use the word deceptive, each examination is 1 hour, 20 minutes. It's not a very lengthy full, so that's why sometimes teachers say, oh, it's just 1 hour, 20 minutes. Can I not just take at least 2 modules on the same day? And generally, I don't advise against it. I keep a gap because Once you start looking at the content, when you start looking at the sample papers, etc., you will realize that what Ruchi was saying makes sense, that, we need time to sort of prepare. Module 1 has 3 parts. The remaining have 2 parts each. There are 80 questions, and all questions are an objective choice format. There are no open-ended, like 10 word, 20 word, 50 word answers here. Like, this is completely a test that is scanned and scored. So there is no writing essay or speaking component like many of our Cambridge English examinations happen to have. So it's straightforward, paper and pencil, multiple choice, various types of questions, all objective format, and these are all freestanding modules. You can take them at predetermined intervals. You can take a gap of about a month between, let's say, module 1 and module 2, then take another month gap and pick up another module if you wish to. That's of course up to you how you want to keep the duration, right? Should, now another question that I'm normally asked, because we are trying on this format, another question that I get asked is, should non-English teachers take CLIL? I generally say it's up to you, but if let's say you're teaching social studies and you're teaching English, if you do module 1 and 2, you'll have enough in your hand to be able to cover what CLIL says, in the sense that you'll be able to correlate to the CLIL. But if you feel the need, there is nothing stopping or preventing you from doing it. It's just a matter of personal choice. And right. So now we're going to talk a little bit about these 3 modules: module 1, module 2, module 3. And then we're going to take in questions after that. Okay. So language and background to language learning and teaching. So 2 terms that you will find a lot when we start talking about English as a language is L1 and L2. Language 1 and language 2. And L1 is the language which we are born into, which we are most comfortable with. If you're born in a certain part of the country, you follow that language. That's the language that you're most comfortable with. Like, I was born in the north, so Hindi is my L1, for example. And for me, then English obviously becomes an L2. Generally, what I have observed and I have experienced, and what teachers normally share with me, is that this trend is very common, that the further you move away from an urban area, the more challenging your students will sometimes find to pick up English as an L2, right? So this module, for example, is going to talk a little bit about differences in the learning. I'm just giving you a few examples here. I will show you very quickly at the end of it. I will very quickly give you a glimpse of the sample papers also. It will talk about the functions of language. It will talk about what you should. There is some part about phonology here, grammar, vocabulary, etc. Because remember, this is meant for English teachers. So what comes under planning and preparation? How will you do with the slow learner? How will you be fair? What will you do? Would you say a session is successful? These are some questions that you will get answered, right? So module 1 has got these example types. And if you look at the coverage, it's got terms and concepts in English teaching, knowledge in the underpinning the learning of English, and what is the range of choices available to the teacher, right? Now I just want to talk for about 2 minutes about one of my favorite topics, which is English as a subject and English as a skill. Okay. Our students are very proficient in studying English as a subject. I know, and I know many young children will not even look at English as something very tough if they are good at English. And students who are like struggling a little bit with the language will approach English in the same manner that they are approaching their other subjects. Right? They are going to focus on a lot of memory. They're going to focus on a lot of learning without necessarily understanding. English as a skill, on the other hand, focuses on the 4 skills, the 2 receptive skills and the 2 productive skills. What are my receptive skills? How do I receive a language? Listening and reading. And what are my productive skills? Speaking and writing. So in the real world, once you're out of school or once you're out of a formal, let's say a slightly more protected environment, even once you start going to college and beyond, what is really required is English as a skill. And I think that is where module 1 is very, very valuable. module 1 and module 2 in particular, in that they help teachers understand the difference and exhibit and learn and imbibe this difference between English as a subject and English as a skill. There is nothing wrong with English as a subject. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. It's an integral part of our curriculum. Continue to do so. But it serves a very different purpose for the student because it is meant to address a large cohort of students across various regions in our country. But when it comes to English as a skill, it becomes a very different ballgame altogether. And this is where the TKT and the teaching knowledge test and the framework behind it will help you understand and take some of this. Now let's talk about module 2. Module 2 is about lesson planning and the use of resources for language teaching. This is very good. This is very, very interesting because what I really like about the module 2 lesson plans is that they always encourage you to put a personal goal at the end, whenever you're planning for a lesson. And this lesson planning is very different from the lesson planning. I have also done my B.Ed, so I can tell you with a lot of confidence that this lesson planning is very different from the kind of lesson planning that we have done in our B.Ed. This is very, very learner-centric. It's great fun. I do sessions on lesson planning, which is using TKT as a reference. And it's a lot about what is the outcome, what is the role of the learner, what is the role of the teacher, what is the, let's say, the primary goal, what is the secondary goal, what is the personal goal, for example. And then, of course, use of resource. What can I use? Can I use a dictionary? Can I use a worksheet? What's the difference between using, can I use some additional material? Can I ask my students to get some additional material? Now we come to module 3, classroom management, right? Classroom management is part of every, I think any professional qualification will look at it very, very closely. And that is where part 3 comes, module 3 comes, managing the teaching, the role of the learner, the role of the teacher. So how can I, so a lot of, let's say, for example, if we look at the different approaches to, if you look historically at the approaches to English language learning and teaching, and I'm not going to go back very, first of all, was the grammar translation method, right? Where we understood something and we directly translated that into English and we learned. A lot of courses were built about it. I don't know if you remember, there was a time when Kapil Dev used to advertise for, he was a sort of a brand ambassador, for the want of a better word, for something called the Rapidex English speaking course. And it really focused on, I take this sentence, I understand it in the language I'm most comfortable with, and I translate that into English and I learn that. Then of course, there was a lot of talk about, a lot of focus on listening, the audio method, which was largely very, very focused by it was actually the US Army that started this method, the audiolingual method of learning. Then, of course, we've seen a lot of change. We are moving on to task-based learning, where we're talking about the functional approach to learning. Now, when we start looking at these new approaches, functional approach to learning, we look at task-based learning, we look at learner-centric environments, we look at using real world as an example and as an input for developing language, right? Then managing the teaching process takes in a little bit more than just having a class and having students sit in it. So for example, how can I group my learners? How can I focus on my weak learners? How can I focus on my stronger learners? All of this will come into the module 3 process. So knowledge of what happens in the classroom, knowledge of the roles of a teacher. I spoke about some of the roles a while back, and how you can use the classroom, how you can use classroom language to manage your interaction. And now finally we come to what I have been talking about, this CLIL, content and language integrated learning is meant for all the non-teachers who do not teach English, but use English as a medium of instruction. Now, I'll give you 2 or 3 examples, right? And if I were able to like sort of have an interaction with you, I would have asked you for a show of hands. How many of the teachers here teach physics, chemistry, and biology? And I'm sure a lot of hands would have gone up and say, yes, I do. I find that the lab notebook that we have, the lab manual that I think after class 7th or 8th, whatever class students are expected to write and maintain, is a great example of process writing. It's a great example of using passive, right? To use a very technical grammar term. If I look at history teaches sequential understanding of language. How can I understand events that happened in a sequential manner? How can you understand the linkers, right? I'm talking from a very English teacher's perspective because that is my forte, but I'm just giving an example of how if we look at any subject, regardless of whether English is the focus or not in that classroom, because it is being taught in English, there is a great opportunity for the teacher to so let me now put it very clearly. There is no expectation that these teachers will go and teach English. Absolutely not. All right. So I don't want all the teachers to feel, oh God, now I have to teach English in the physics classroom. No, that's not going to happen. But what you will do is you will become very aware of what is the kind of how can I teach a curriculum subject through the medium of a second or a third language. How can I change my approach a little bit and a little by little at a time to focus on my lesson delivery in a content and language integrated learning? Finland as a country has seen great success. In fact, Finland is it started with this in I think sometime in the 1960s, and they started with the integrated learning concept. And today, Finland is considered a trailblazer, a role model for how subjects are not segregated. There is no geography separately, or all there, at least till a certain age, there is a lot of integrated learning that is happening for the child. So let's say the child is learning about temperature, and he learns about geographical regions that fall under the temperature, etc. I have never studied in Finland, but I'm just looking at an example because I've read a few articles. And because of that, they've seen a great sort of, they've become a role model for the rest of the world. So for those of us who are not English teachers, it's not necessarily about teaching English, but rather becoming aware that how I can create an integrated classroom. Okay? So it develops confident learners. And sometimes you will also find that your students know the answers, they know something, but they're not able to express themselves because they don't find the language to do it. And I think a lot of our, unfortunately, our engineering graduates are like that. They know solutions, they know, I'm talking about higher education level, they know a lot, but they are not able to express themselves. So can we change that in our classroom? Because I think the schools are best, are the most, let's say, they are hallowed ground for learning of this thing. And if we can bring more confidence into our learners, right? So I'm just giving an example. This is the only place where I've given you an example. I'm giving you an example of what a question in the CLIL TKT paper looks like, right? So I just want to like the teachers to feel very comfortable that this clearly is not going to be about just me learning a lot of English, but it's also going to be about using the language as a springboard and making sure that my student is very confident in using English in my subject area, right? So this is a very simple sort of an example, which I think social science teachers will sort of correlate to it, okay? So I'm just going to change the sharing window for a minute, and I'm just going to very quickly take you to just give me a minute. I am having a little bit of I will assume that you're all able to see you're all able to see the PDF documents now. I'm just going to very quickly show you, like, this is what a module 1 sort of paper looks like. So here, obviously, you're going to see that this is all very, very English related. So these papers are available to you. You have sample papers for each of these. I will also take you through the website, but I'm just going to take a pause and I am going to look at a few questions that have been shared with me, right? This is a module 2, and you'll find that module 2 talks about, remember, lesson planning. Clearly, I've already shown you a sample question, and I am just going to stop sharing. So I'm just looking at my phone for a minute, where I am getting a few queries that have been shared with me. So I'd like to answer your questions first. There are no descriptive answers. I think I have answered this question already. There are no descriptive. Is there negative marking? No, there is no negative marking. Is TKT a stepping stone? That's a very sort of a the CIDTT. I will not say it's a stepping stone, but it will definitely be a good sort of a help to you. Now, the one thing that I have not discussed so far is how is the TKT graded, and I have not done it very deliberately. I have not discussed it very deliberately because I first like to talk about the exam and then talk about this. So the TKT is a test which does not have a pass-fail concept. It gives you band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4. You will get a score in these 4 bands for each of the modules. Each of the modules that is given to you. So extensive. That is why, if you remember, when I started my talk, I mentioned that I would not recommend, because it can be a little deceptive in some ways. I don't recommend that you take 1 or 2 modules together or in very short duration. Prepare for one. And the questions are applicative. They are not going to ask you, for example, is any definitions. Oh, do you remember the definition of a noun? Or do you remember the definition of this particular grammatical term? No. So what the questions will ask you is application, right? And for application, you have to give it some thought. You have to answer things really, really well. Okay. What do you have to prepare? So for preparation, I am going to, one sec, and I'll show you the Cambridge English website also in a second. We have 2 books which will take you through all of this. For modules 1, 2, and 3, it's 1 book. So you don't have to you don't have to have like 3 different books for each of the modules. In 1 book, you can get coverage for all the modules. And of course, for CLIL, we have a separate book for CIL teachers who take it up. So they'll familiarize you with the examination format, some familiarize you with the types of questions that are there, and help you and help you also sort of get ready. In addition to it, you can look at, so I'm just going to share the Cambridge English website with you. Just give me a minute. I will have to open and just give me a minute. I'll have to open a window there, and I will. So this seems to have run off. Let me just open a. Okay, I have this ready. So I will just come back to Zoom. Let me start another share. right? I will assume that you are all able to see the, right? So on the Cambridge English website, you can go and have a look at educators and organizations, and in that professional learning and development and teaching qualifications, you will find a lot of information that I'm already speaking to you about. If you go down and you'll find that, oh, there's CELTA, which is meant for adult learners. CELTA requires you to take time off. It's a very different focused program. And click on read more about the TKT. All of the information that you want to know a little bit, how to prepare, about the tests, all of this is here. I will share this link, and this link can be further shared with you, right? So you can look at sample papers, you can download the TKT glossary, which is really great because the glossary of terms helps you understand, what specific words and phrases are specifically being used, in which context they are being used. And they're especially helpful for the CLIL takers. And this, of course, here. And you can take a check at results. You get band descriptors where you're able to see band descriptors for fuller details of what does band 1 mean, band 2 mean, what does band 4 mean, and what does it mean in relation to that specific sort of module as such. So I'm just going to recap here. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I'm just going to recap. I've spoken to you about the TKT. I have spoken to you about the value of a TKT, how it's a professional help for you, how it can be beneficial for both English and non-English teachers. I've given you a very brief overview because this is meant to be a short and a fast-paced session. I have given you a brief overview of each of the modules of TKT, Module 1, Module 2, and Module 3, which are for teachers of English, and you have CLIL, which is for teachers who are using English as a means of communication. Now, I always get a question here is that why do we want to not focus so much on the regional and the mother tongue or the language with which the child is most comfortable with? It's something that can become very, very, it can become very volatile very, very quickly. But yes, of course, there is a lot of focus is that the child will learn best in the language that they are most comfortable with. I completely agree. And in fact, even if you look at some of the aspects of the new education policy, there is a lot of focus on the child learning languages. There's a lot of focus on the mother tongue of the child. Absolutely. At some time, there is also talk in the NEP about moving to English, and English gets a special, I wouldn't say special, but it gets a different and a distinct mention. And the NEP does talk about Indian students being global citizens, Indian students being comparable with students across the world, etc. So English is here to stay. It's a language that we all land up using professionally in different aspects in different places. So it's something that is going to only benefit the child, right? It is something that we write. So if the teacher works with the learners, if the teacher works with the students to improve their language and confidence skills and uses of professional qualifications like TKT to enhance the teaching, the ultimate benefit is for the learner. It is for the student. So I just want all of you to just take a minute and guess. I want you to take a guess at a percentage, okay? That what percentage of the content on the internet is in English? And when I say content on the internet, I mean websites, blogs, videos, these days, Insta Reels. I mean all of it, approximately. I just want you to guess a number and keep it with yourself, right? I just want you to guess a number and keep it with yourself. Okay. So a lot of when I ask this in person, a lot of people say, oh, 60%, 70%, 80%. The answers are normally on the higher side. And what will surprise you, and it's going to be sound very paradoxical, is it's actually closer to 49%, so nearly 50%. So then why are we talking so much about, teachers enhancing their professional qualifications, becoming better English teachers, integrated learning, etc.? Because if you ask, okay, what is the second number there language wise, and what percentage of content on the internet is there? And you will find, I think it's German and Spanish or something like that, and it's closer to 4 or 5%. So 48% of the content, followed by 5%, and then the rest of the languages of the world take up the remaining percentage. So that itself gives us a very big idea about balancing it out and how our skills as teachers and our focus as teachers will help our learners do better. And professional qualifications are one way to go. So I'm going to now start answering questions if I have any more. And then I will come back and I will show you a couple of sample papers. So I'm just waiting if there are any more questions. So I would recommend all of you put up your questions on the YouTube channel that you have joined, and they will reach me through some other channels. So if you could do that. I'll just give it a minute. Okay, yes, I'm getting a few questions. Okay, yeah, I got, somebody said 60%, somebody said 75%, somebody said 90%. So I said, remember the question that I asked about the percent of English on the internet? It's interesting trivia for all of you also. Okay. A question that I get asked very often is, how do I start? Okay, what is step one do I take? Okay, Ruchi, you told us, very nice, very good. Now we've understood, we are motivated, we want to take JKT CLIL, or I want to start with module 1. I'm an English teacher. Where do I start? Okay, the place to start is what I just showed you. The place to start is the Cambridge English website. If you just go and Google Cambridge English TKT, you will reach the website, or you can go to the website and you can. How long can we take up for one module? I will assume that this question is about preparation. There is no perfect sort of specific answer that you should take 2 months. 45 days this teachers sometimes teachers, if they are very busy, they take up to 2 months. But beyond that, I feel that it's not, so let me put it like this. The TKT is meant to be a self-study program. It's not something where you will go for classes and learn. You have to do a lot of learning and practice on your own. And at some point of time, you will reach a saturation point. So if you stretch out too much, if you stretch your learning time too much, you will have a law of diminishing returns coming to you there, and you're going to say that, okay, now I'm burning out. So teachers are able to do it in 45 days if they have reasonable time for preparation. Yes, I'm waiting for the next question. And then I will then come back and give you a step-by-step. Yeah. Please feel free to ask. No question is like, oh, I shouldn't ask this question. Every question is welcome. Every question is important. Particular time to enroll for TKT. This is where Dr. Mithun and Amit will be able to help you. through the center. You will be able, there is a communication channel which will have been established. You can let them know, and they will be able to help you and guide you about. Absolutely, 2 months is a reasonable time. It also gives you some flexibility to do that. 2 months is fine. 45 days to 2 months is 60 days is absolutely fine. Especially now, considering that you have. But my advice to you would be register for the test. Don't wait. You see, what happens is that uh, it's human nature. It's not, it's got nothing to do with anybody here. It's human nature. If a goalpost can be shifted, it gets shifted. Okay. So if I say, oh no, I can't do it in October, let me do it in November. No, November, there's a wedding in my family, let me do it in December. Oh no, December now, Christmas holidays are coming, some holidays are coming, I'm going to be very busy, I have family coming over, let me do it. So that you know how it will happen. You will not prioritize your own learning. I'm being very honest, very brutal, very frank with you. You will not be able to prioritize your own learning. So my recommendation is step one, say, okay, I'm going to take this, take that decision. The decision is completely yours. Then say, okay, now let's say today is the 19th, let's say 20th of August. By tomorrow, you would want to take it end of September, first week of October, let's assume. Say, okay, fine. I want to be able to do this within the next 45 days to 2 months. Let me now focus and get registered for the test. Because the moment you register for the test, you will create a seriousness for yourself, right? Look at our students. Our students always come into action at the time of examination. So we'll also be a little bit like our students, create an examination deadline for you. And it is not, and Amit can please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not a test where everybody will say, oh, I will take it on Monday, and the next person will say, oh, I will take it on Tuesday. You will have to take the test as a group, right? So it is a good idea for you to be also studying in a group and set yourself a test date of, let's say, a week's time window, and then come and assess, because they will need time to, they will obviously need advance notice to sort of work with the operations team and get you the papers, etc. So there's a whole process behind it, and that takes time. So take the step one, take a call, take a decision. You're getting a great opportunity. I already mentioned that what I have been informed is that 50% of the test fees will be taken up by your very generous institution. Step two, let me share my screen and show you the Cambridge English website. Step two, you can go to the Cambridge English website and start reading all about the TKT. You can start here, right? So if you go to Cambridge English, you go to educators and organizers. English teachers can take a look at professional learning and development tab also. It talks about the Cambridge English teaching framework, and it gives you a lot of information here. This is really very, very interesting. It's not the focus of today's session, so I am not going to go so much into this, right? So what are my stages, etc. But for the purpose of the TKT, you will look at teaching qualification, and you can then start, and you can select if you want to know more about CELTA and Delta, please go ahead, and you can read more about the TKT, and you will get all the information that you need here. Where can you get the preparation? And you will get you can download the glossary, and you can find a test center, etc. This is something which will be taken up internally for you all, so you don't have to about it. Now, if I go to resources, now please remember this. I first went to teaching qualifications, then I'm going to resources for teachers, right? If you go to resources for teachers, you'll find, you select the qualification. Let's say I selected TKT CLIL, and I say search. And you have 23 resources in the handbook, the teacher guide, the lesson plan, and the sample paper. So the next step 2 is, after you decide to take up and you communicate your intention to take up, You can download the sample paper and you can start looking at it. Is it an online exam? That is something that you will have to work out with the test center. Mostly TKT that I'm aware of and I know of, the paper and pencil test. But there are some centers probably abroad that do it online, but I'm not from the operations team, so I will not be able to give you a commitment as to how it is available. I think Dhananjay will be best placed, sir, to answer that question for you, what format it is being given. Okay, now I have another question here, which is very interesting, which is, does ICSE and Cambridge have a similar pedagogy? In some ways similar, and in many ways very, very different. The focus, and I'm assuming here the Cambridge that you're talking about is the IGCSE curriculum. The curriculum is different, the pedagogy differs in certain cases, for sure. Okay, I'm waiting for some more questions, then I will come back. And I'm trying to get you an answer to whether we can take this exam online, because I know a lot of exams, Cambridge exams are getting digitized. So I'm just trying to get you an answer for that. It's, as far as I recall, it's a paper-based test, and I think that's the way it is. Okay. Okay, I've got another question here. Give me a minute. I will need some expansion on this limitation. What do you mean by limitation of TKT, sir? I need a little bit more explanation. Are you talking about an entry level requirement or something? Because this is a little broad. So if you could just specify this, that what is meant by TKT limitation, then I'll be able to happily answer that question for you. Okay. So coming back, then of course you have the sample paper. You can download the handbook. All of these resources are free to download. You don't even have to give your email ID or telephone number or anything like that. So all of it is here for you, available. This is a good place for you to start and read the handbook first, because the handbook will give you a sense of what are you going to learn, what are you going to be tested on, and then you get a paper. The paper can be very deceptive in the sense that it looks very simple, but it requires a lot of thinking for you to do. And of course, you will have to take out time to sort of prepare, right? A glossary of terms is there. That's very important for the CLIL teachers as well. Any more questions, sir? Any more questions that we have? I'm waiting. Then I would like to okay. All right. I'd just like to show you a video. Let me just make sure that I've shared the sound also, right? Speak a minute. I'd like to just share. Yeah, I have shared the sound. So there are no more. I don't see any more questions coming. So let's just watch this video together. something I really, really like to share with teachers because it gives us a very great insight into what our students are, our learners are going to be. They've got to be ready for things that we're already seeing an impact of AI like anything today.
Today,
So
we
let me
present a
just-
powerful speech
let
by
me
Pulki
just-
Sharma, an esteemed
just-
journalist and thought leader, as she explores India.
All right. So I wish you all the best. I think we've come to the end of the session. I had kept 15 to 20 minutes for questions, but I think I'd like to take it as a compliment that I have been able to give you a lot of information. This is meant to be a brief and an introductory session, so therefore we're not going into too much individual detail. A lot of this information is already there on the Cambridge English website, and you can look it up. Take a decision based on how you would like to proceed with your professional qualifications. And I, of course, wish the teachers all the best, and a lot of success, and the same thing for their students. So I think if there are no more questions, then we can wind up for the session.
Hi, Ruchi.
Right, sir. Good afternoon.
So, before we thank everyone, we have shared a link of attendance. Once you fill the Google link, you'll qualify for the participation certificate. So, thank you so much, Ruchi, for a very insightful session.
You're welcome.
And thank you on the management of the Apollo Group of Schools. Thank you, all the principals of the schools, Apollo schools. Thank you, all the teachers for participating. And in fact, this is a very crucial time for them. They go home, and this is the time for the me time for them, I think. So,
I know. I have
in
been a teacher myself. I
in
know.
that time, they have invested
Yes.
in this session. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Ruchi.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for giving the opportunity. And I wish the teachers a lot of success. And thank you, teachers, for the very patient hearing. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
week
Thank
ahead.
you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Yeah.